Okay. Hi, everyone. A massively warm welcome to what is a exciting week-long event of sessions on the theme of preventing abusive sexual behaviour, sexual offending, and harmful sexual behaviour as part of our Together for Childhood movement happening here in Plymouth. We've had an overwhelming response, and it's really, really great to welcome everyone on what feels like the first spring day here today in Plymouth. So I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name's Oliver Mackey, and I'm the Strategic Service Manager for NSPCC, and I lead the Together for Childhood project here in Plymouth. And I'll be delivering this opening session today with my colleague, Shelley Shaw, who you will meet shortly, who is the Development and Impact Manager here at the Together for Childhood project. It's really great to be seeing so many new names come on to the session this morning to hear about what this project's all about, and also to be welcoming some familiar friends and partners who work with us already as part of the Together for Childhood project. So just before we get into the housekeeping, overarching sort of objectives. So this week came about from our Preventing Offending and Harmful Sexual Behaviour Development Group as part of our Together for Childhood programme. And they came up with the idea of, despite COVID, let's have an ambitious week-long event to engage a wide range of professionals and individuals in what we're attempting to do to prevent child sexual abuse here in Plymouth, so we can share the learning and we can provide a focus on the prevention of abusive sexual behaviour by hearing from experts. We're so fortunate this week we're going to get to hear from experts both across the country, locally and internationally, and also from services and agencies that are working in this field of work. So it's a fantastic week, and I really hope a lot of you have signed up to a number of the sessions that are happening this week. I just want to just remind everyone that to help process this, the practicalities of the session, you'll see on the side there, my colleague Corinne has posted that please you can use the chat function throughout the session to raise some questions, and there will be a short space of time at the end to respond to those. But we'll also be publishing a FAQ sort of response some point next week to respond to some of the questions that were raised, and we'll be circulating that around to all the participants. You can also raise your hand using the function at the top. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Teams by now, but if you want to, if your chat function isn't working, please use the hand function, and we'll come to you at the end of the session. Also, a reminder that there is a post-event evaluation that we've put together that will be coming out towards the end of this week or beginning of next week, and I really urge everyone, if they can, to fill that in, because it will really help us understand what we've learned from this event. And we can put that into our plans going forward. I want to give a shout out to the Safer Plymouth Partnership. Big thanks to them for supporting this event, the whole week of events, and sponsoring us to deliver this ambitious program, which is so a massive thank you to Safer. Okay. Shelley, if you can just, yeah, thank you. So just a note about keeping ourselves well. Obviously, during this session and the rest of the week, the topic area of child sexual abuse and its prevention can pose triggers for any one of us. All of us are affected by trauma, so it's really important that we look after ourselves and we look after others. We're all working in environments that not necessarily in a work environment and in our home environment. So it's also about being mindful about the content of what's being delivered in the sessions, and for those that are nearby or in the vicinity. If any of this affects you, any of the subject matter affects you in a way that you need to talk to someone, please reach out to colleagues, to people you normally reach out to, but you can also access and contact the NSPCC helpline or our local team, and we can signpost you to help and support. But we are, like I said, really, really excited about this week. Shelley, if you can click to the next slide, please. So can you believe it? A year ago today, a year ago, we were entering into what we thought might be just a couple of months, the COVID pandemic. And at that very point that we entered into the first lockdown, we were attempting to launch a film, which was made about Plymouth and our project Together for Childhood, which I'm just going to show you now. I'm really pleased to be able to kind of give it another airing because it just didn't get the distribution that it deserved at the time. So I'm going to play you a video. It's about 4 minutes long, and you'll get to meet an incredible individual called Emily, who will lead you through what Together for Childhood in Plymouth is all about. Okay, so technology willing, all my fingers and toes are crossed. My colleague Shelley now will play the film.
The NSPCC to find out how they're going to protect children through some of the projects they run. I was sexually abused as a child, and really for me, I want to see how they're preventing other children going through what I went through. So I've come to Plymouth to see something called Together for Childhood. It sounds like an ambitious project, trying to break the taboo of talking about abuse by bringing together different parts of a community and making child protection a priority.
This is Erniesettle, which is a part of Plymouth in the northwest of the city. They've absolutely welcomed us in, and small things are making a real difference.
Having a presence in the community, has that made people come and seek you out?
Yeah, actually, where we're going to go now, down to the sports hall, which is run by Brad. He approached me in one of the local supermarkets, so we were able to help him make that sports hall as safe as it could be.
Oh, 2-0! Well done. We opened in January this year. There's a lot of community sessions, some futsal leagues that run down here now as well, so it's quite busy, most of the week.
How did you hear about Together for Childhood?
Knowing that there was going to be lots of children here, I collared Shelley and asked if she could sort of point me in the right direction on a few things, just making sure that the children were safe while they're here.
I'd like to know if you hearing about something like Together for Childhood makes you feel more confident bringing your child.
It's good that I can bring Freddie and make sure he's safe, and I could just go away and leave him with Bradley, really.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, isn't it?
It's complex, preventing sexual abuse, because every individual is different.
Yeah.
And so our response needs to be just as multiple and complex. Coming up on our left, we've got the local church. One of our practitioners has been going there and talking to parents about how they can have early conversations with their children to help keep them safe.
So who are we going to go and meet next?
We're off now to meet some women from the Tea and Toast group who have been busy knitting pairs of pants for our bears that we give away to children to help share the pants message. Privates are private. Can I introduce Emily to you all?
Hi. So how did you ladies respond, like when you first started hearing about the project?
We started knitting.
How do the bears get sort of distributed?
So they're in the GP surgery, they're at community events. Every young person that wants a bear gets given a bear to take home with them.
I don't know if you know much about my background, but I was abused when I was younger, and it was there was none of this around. And imagine if I got a pair of pants, that could have changed my life.
There's more support to help people talk about it now.
Yes.
Where years ago there wasn't the support. You had nobody. It's rubbish, or you were called a liar. This has got to stop now.
We're 3 years into Together for Childhood in Plymouth now, and we're starting to see some real successes. People in the community are talking about the prevention of sexual abuse much more. So children will hear some of our messaging when they're in school. They'll see posters in the youth centre. They'll hear their sports coach talking about it. And that then starts to build relationships with trust, where children will feel more able to speak out if something is happening to them. As we develop and learn, we will look together with our partners of how we can roll this out, and also use the learning from the other Together for Childhood sites as part of this 10-year programme.
I never thought I would see a day when there would be a programme that actually can start preventing sexual abuse and abuse in general to children. I just didn't think that was possible. Together for Childhood is tackling sexual abuse and abuse from so many different ways. It's no longer a taboo subject, and that has the power to change the lives for thousands of children in this country and prevent thousands more from going through sexual abuse and what I went through. Had that been surrounding me when I was little, I think 100% I would have been able to get help.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Okay, everyone, I hope that was it was great to see that film properly played to a large audience. That's the first time we've actually managed to play that to this large an audience. So you're the first people to see it in this size as an impact of COVID. So really, really great to see that. Hopefully that gave you a really good, and it showed Ernie Settle in its absolute glory in that beautiful sunshine. So you heard a bit about what Together for Childhood's about. It's about bringing families and communities, partners together to prevent child sexual abuse and make communities safer. It's very much place-based and it's courageously prevention-focused. And we work within the community of Ernie Settle to test at a community level what works and what gaps there are, so that we can then learn from that and and then scale it up and roll it out on a broader scale. Key to Together for Childhood, the absolute fundamental part of Together for Childhood is its partnership. We have dozens of organisations and many more individuals working with us to kind of make Together for Childhood a success. Like I said, many of those individuals are here, part of this week and part of the calls and part of the sessions being delivered across the week. We take in Together for Childhood a public health approach. So we believe CSA child sexual abuse can be prevented. By taking this approach, we look at defining what the problems are. Why is child sexual abuse prevalence still there? What do we need to put in place? What risks are there in communities for children? And what protective factors? Very much important to major on the fact that we always look at a strengths-based approach. So we're always looking at what strengths exist in the community. You couldn't have seen it better than what we just saw in that film. When we saw the community group there, the nanas knitting those bears with those messages for children around how pants are kept private. I mean, that's one example, a small example, but a really important one of what communities can do, the power of community. So I'm going to just pass to Shelley to talk a bit about what is meant by working within a child sexual abuse prevention matrix, and then I'll bring us back to why now in the context.
Thanks, Ollie. So the Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Matrix was developed by Professor Stephen Smallbone, and in effect it is a table which determines the model that we should be working towards if we are to prevent child sexual abuse in its wider sense. So the prevention matrix across the vertical axes is primary, secondary and tertiary prevention. So that's reiterating the need for a public health approach. So primary prevention being universal prevention, work across the whole population. Secondary prevention is looking where there may be additional vulnerabilities or increased risk and ensuring that we put some targeted support into that area. And tertiary prevention references support after abuse has taken place. In terms of the horizontal, what Professor Stephen Smallbone says is that we should work across 4 different intervention groups, and those groups are children, offenders or potential offenders, the community ecosystem, so that's thinking about the workforce and community members, and also situations. So it's really important when we're preventing child sexual abuse that we're not just thinking about the people, but we're also thinking about the place.
Thanks, Shelley. We deliver Together for Childhood through a series of design principles that are basically our values. They're the things that guide the program and keep us on track to deliver it. And those are that we're, like I said earlier, we're strengths based, meaning that we look at all the assets that are available to us in a community, and we build on those assets and those strengths. Co-creation, that runs across everything. So in simple terms, it means we don't do anything without talking to and involving and letting partners in the community develop ideas and concepts with us and alongside us. We deliver it in partnership. Like I said, there are dozens of organisations involved and part of this partnership to prevent child sexual abuse. We're always looking at the long term. So we're 3 years in. It's a 10-year, it's a long-term ambitious program, but we never rest on our laurels. We always have to be thinking about, putting in place something that when we're long gone, it will continue to thrive and continue to be something that's in place in Plymouth and beyond. We make sure the program is accessible and inclusive. We need to involve everyone in this. This isn't just about one small set. We have to always broaden our horizons about who needs to be involved and engaged in prevention of child sexual abuse. And we're always learning. So we're really fortunate. We have embedded evaluation within the project here in Plymouth, which means we have a constant cycle of evaluation and learning about what's working and finding out what bits didn't work so that we can learn from that and sort of improve what we're trying to do. It's basically a test and learn cycle. So we test and learn different projects. One example that would be that we've developed a community-facing sexual abuse awareness raising session called Sexual Abuse Let's Tackle It Together, which is about how sexual abuse can be prevented. We've developed that and we've run that and we've tested it both with professionals, and we're now starting to roll it out with community members. So it's about constantly testing and learning and seeing seeing what works and building on that. And lastly, I mean, it's probably the most important thing. Why now? I mean, I think why now is critical. We sadly, 1 in 20 children and young people will be affected by child sex abuse. That's what we know of the prevalence at the moment. And it takes an average of 26 years for a disclosure, shockingly. So we have to change this. We have to change. This is a public health issue, a public health problem that affects the whole world. And we're really fortunate that here in the UK, we're giving it laser focus and developing on it. And it also comes at a critical time for the UK. In January, the government launched its first ever, we really welcome that, it launched its first ever national strategy on tackling child sexual abuse. And at the time that they launched that strategy, we were hearing other things. We were hearing that ONS carried out a survey that reported that nearly all women in the UK at reaching adulthood report some form of sexual harassment. And yet only a quarter of those women would ever have reported it to anyone. This is a systemic issue that needs a systemic response. And you know, we can only tackle this together. I mean, the fact that over 600 of you have signed up and counting, I think we're still signing people up this morning to attending sessions this week, though, gives me absolute heart that we're in this together and we want to learn and we want to tackle this head on and make childhood a much safer place. So this is just fantastic news for me. And I think it's a testament to this area, the Southwest and Plymouth, and what we've got here in our partnership. And on that note, I have to leave to go and welcome the next speaker. For those of you that are joining the session at 9:30 with Kieran McCartin, we're going to do a little technological shuffle now, and I'm going to pass over to my colleague Shelley while I go off to welcome Kieran and get him set up for the next session. Over to you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Ollie. So you've heard from Ollie the concept and some of the theory behind Together for Childhood. And what I'm going to do now is give you a brief overview of some of the activities and the real delivery of work that's taking place in Plymouth. So this slide here shows the current financial year's plan, and that will hopefully give you a flavour of some of the projects that we're working on. So we've split the project into 5 building blocks, and that's to help it feel more manageable, and also because they're the 5 priorities that we've identified through the development of a theory of change. Each of those building blocks has a multi-agency development group who help to shape and lead and support the delivery of the work. The only exception there is the trauma-informed system building block, and that's because the work of that group is driven through the Trauma-Informed Plymouth Network and also the Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence group of Safer Plymouth. Because of the breadth of activity, we have active engagement from over 35 different organisations, and the NSPCC takes the role in supporting coordination, development and connecting the widest possible partnership. So in addition to the 35 organisations who are very active in supporting the development, we also have many more agencies benefiting from the activity, such as the training workshop that Ollie discussed. I think this slide demonstrates the complexity of Together for Childhood, and it also helps to think about how we do work across the child sexual abuse prevention matrix. So as an example of that, if we look at quality assured delivery of relationship and sex education, that would be our primary prevention offer. So ensuring that all children in all schools receive good quality relationship and sex education. In terms of a secondary prevention offer, we could focus in on special educational needs and disabilities, recognising that the evidence tells us there is increased vulnerability of children with SEND being harmed. And in terms of tertiary prevention, so after abuse has taken place, that activity sits within trauma-informed system, thinking about the pathway and thresholds for support to ensure that as a city, we have enough sufficiency and enough good quality support so that children can recover from the abuse they've experienced. This conference has come from the Preventing Offending and Harmful Sexual Behaviour Building Block Group, and they identified an opportunity to share knowledge about the prevention of sexual offending and to share information about the services available. What we really want to do in this opening session is celebrate the success of the work that's taken place so far. So as we are about to enter our 4th year of Together for Childhood Plymouth, we can evidence now that for partners who are involved, there is a growing agreement that we have a shared vision to prevent child sexual abuse across the partnership. Together for Childhood is referenced and embedded in a number of local strategies, including the Brighter Futures documents, which is about to be made public soon, along with Safer Plymouth strategies to prevent sexual violence. The work we've undertaken has informed the action plans of other groups, and this is ensuring the work is embedded and sustainable. In terms of our engagement with community members, you've seen from Emily's film how we have started that work, and I think it's really important to note that that work hasn't stopped. So the women that are knitting pants have continued to knit pants, but they also tell us that they feel more confident having conversations with their grandchildren about healthy relationships and the pants message. They also tell us they feel a real sense of pride when they see a child or young person walking down the street holding their bear. We also know that we have received 3 disclosures following children receiving pants messaging within the Build-A-Bears. So that activity alone has led to significant change. Now, our work in Early Settle has really progressed, and even with the pandemic, we've been able to stay connected with community leaders. We've centred our work on relationships and maintaining these. With the lottery grant we secured in September last year, we've implemented a new approach to working with communities so that they can be active in the prevention of harm and can control how financial investment in their community is prioritised. We've worked with partners such as Plymouth Community Homes and Barnardo's to deliver care packages and engage the local schools in Christmas activities, showcasing these at St Aidan's Church. It feels like there is a genuine community support to the work that we're doing, and we know that community confidence will help people feel able to take action to keep children safe. Children and young people led activities. The voice of children and young people remains central to our work and as part of our co-creation. In Wednesday afternoon session, you're going to hear from Corinne about a campaign project with young people, and a number of young people have remained involved in our work. Again, throughout lockdown, we've maintained relationships with care package deliveries and Zoom calls so that young people feel connected to Together for Childhood. We've also worked with pupils at Early Settle Community School who have created a leaflet to share with Year 5 parents about how to have healthy relationships conversations. And pupils from Brook Green Special School have worked with us on quality assuring healthy relationships education. Across the life of Together for Childhood, we've secured funding from the Samworth Foundation, the National Lottery and the Garfield Weston Foundation, along with grants from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner via Safer Plymouth. However, Together for Childhood is more than just external funding, and it is the engagement of community members and professionals who have invested their time and commitment that has really driven this project forward. Although the NSPCC provides the function of a backbone support, we are reliant on partners to take action so we can prevent harm together for the long term. Can I just ask everyone to mute, please? The Workforce Development Plan. So as Ollie described, we've tested delivery of a bite-sized workshop on the prevention of child sexual abuse, and we've delivered that to over 200 community group leaders, foster carers, housing officers, RSPCA officers and trainee police officers. From this, we've learned that we really need a more cross-agency workforce development plan on the prevention of child sexual abuse. And this activity will now be taken forward by the Children's Safeguarding Partnership to ensure that we have a city-wide approach of recommended workforce development that will really focus our efforts on preventing harm. My last bullet point is this conference. I really feel that this is a significant point in time for Together for Childhood. Our ability to engage over 600 different individuals in learning and a conversation that focuses on the prevention of offending behaviours really progresses our work into the sphere where we can be really courageously prevention focused. I really thank you all for being part of the success of Together for Childhood and for preventing children from being sexually abused. So just to finish up, I'm sure a number of you are booked on to Professor Kieran McCartan's session in a few minutes. So I'm just going to let you know that you can please follow us on social media at TFC Plymouth, or search for us on Facebook via Together for Childhood Plymouth. Throughout this conference week, please use the hashtag TFC Conference 2021, and we will try to collate all of the information that we're receiving through that, and we will share that with our Preventing Offending and Harmful Sexual Behaviour Development Group, who will use all of the information from this week to inform our project plan for next financial year. I hope that's given you a flavour of Together for Childhood Plymouth, and so I stopped sharing my screen. I'm just going to check in with Corinne if we had any significant chat or questions.
Nothing as yet, Shelley.
Okay, super. What I'm going to do is give us a few minutes just to have a break away from the screen, grab a cup of tea, and then hopefully the majority of you will be joining the 9:30 call, ready to hear from Professor Kieran McCartan. Thanks ever so much. Enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you.